But I really don't have any regrets. I really don't. I've lived exactly how I've wanted to. I've tried my hardest every single time. I didn't win the matches that maybe I should have always won, but I really gave it my all. So that for me is enough.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Body Serve. I'm Jonathan.
I'm James.
We are through 3 rounds, almost, at the 2023 Wimbledon Championships, at the All England Lawn and Tennis Croquet, Crochet,
Cricket, Snooker,
Snobbery
Football
Club. And we are here for our mid-tournament episode.
Yeah, this week has been dominated by talk about the rain, roof, curfews, queues. As usual, it does feel like we talk about the same things like every year at Wimbledon because they are so stubborn.
Yeah, but I feel like this year, all those things focused. If it were just a blurry lens of fuckery in previous years where you just kind of haphazardly complain about stuff, everything focused into one very clear picture this year as to what is a problem for me.
For you.
At this tournament. And we're going to get to that. But first, we're going to start with some of the big stories and top performers of the first week.
Let's start day one. Venus Williams is back, opens against Elina, and she slips in the first set.
She's a point away from going up 3-love in that first set. She is firing. She's looking good. She's carrying on the form from her grass tournaments in her lead-up preparation to this tournament. And then she advances to the net, hits a volley, changes direction, and screams an almighty scream as she falls to the floor.
Mm-hmm. We saw this quite recently in her first grass outing in the Netherlands against Georgie. She fell there. And it just feels like when players reach this age, when they're trying to do something truly extraordinary, like there are just so many setbacks. Just one step forward, 5 steps back.
In the case of Venus, it wasn't clear to me that we'd ever see this kind of form or level from her again. Mm-hmm. She's 43 years old. Right? But she was able to get to a point where, again, she's fixed the serve. She's serving much better. She didn't miss much from the ground when she was in position. She was playing very well. She played well against Georgie. She played well against Ostapenko. But I think the lesson here is there's no overcoming time and age in professional sport. Because Venus's mind is willing. Her game is still willing. But time and again especially the last couple of years, her body has let her down. Mm-hmm. In Australia, the injury right when she was looking good again in New Zealand early this year, and now again at Wimbledon. You spend all these months coming back at this age when you have so little time left, fighting against the clock, and you come back and you feel like you're playing well. We can see that you're playing well, but your body just cannot respond to the rigors of professional sport the way it used to. And I can't imagine how frustrating that is.
And also the surface is kind of a problem. We've seen a lot of slips and falls, we always do, and we just kind of accept that this is grass court tennis. These are players who have proven they know how to move on the surface.
When the schedule came out and folks were like, oh yes, Venus back on center court, day one, blah, blah, blah. My very first thought was, oh no.
Right, because we know what center court is giving on day one, even though they allow players to practice on it now.
I was not looking forward to that. No. And 3 games in, here we are.
I'm begging commentators to stop with the, this could be her last time we're ever seeing her at Wimbledon or on center court. There was so much of it on U.S. media. And then Patrick McEnroe said it, but then followed, but Venus has given no indication that she wants to retire. So why did you say that if Venus said she wants to keep playing?
Right.
And when Venus says things, she generally executes on them.
Right, but this discourse has been going on for 15 years.
Since the aughts, since like 2009.
It predates the body serve.
It sure does, yeah.
And so if Venus is out here joking that maybe she'll be the first 50-year-old, she might very well be.
Right. So Svitolina, for her part, back from maternity leave not too long ago, has now made the second week in her first 2 slams back. She beats the third round queen, Elisa Mertens, who I always say, well, just slot Mertens into the third round. Not so. Not so this time.
And then she handled Kenin quite handily today.
Sophia Kenin was bawling. That's the other thing that happened on day one. Shortly after Venus lost, minutes after Felix lost, and then there was this great match between Coco and Sophia Kenin, and Coco went out as well. Kenin had her number. I mean, she was just blasting the ball up the center of the court and picking at the forehand, like mercilessly.
Yeah, Kenin looked really good.
She really did.
And she could have been one of the big stories about this tournament, but instead, it's Svitolina who's doubling down. This comeback is crazy. It's happened so swiftly, her return to tour, and even more swiftly, her return to form. And for my money, she's playing better than she ever has.
Really?
She's hitting the ball harder, better than she has previously.
She has a winnable match against Victoria Azarenka in the round of 16. Azarenka, who, kind of dismantled Dasha Kazatkina, but someone who's not... this is not her favorite surface.
Dasha made the final in a lead-up tournament, right? The one after Berlin last week. We saw Dasha and Vika play in Berlin, and at that tournament, neither of them looked anywhere close to being able to win a match at Wimbledon. So I think on the preview episode, I'd given Vika's chances of doing something big here like fairly small.
Right.
But here she is.
Well, and you also said don't count on Madison to succeed at 2 tournaments in a row.
Right.
And she's in the second week now, has handled her draw very well. Not a difficult draw, but she's made it through without much drama.
For my mind, the biggest story of the first week, Christopher Eubanks.
Yeah,
wow.
Gotta be.
What a moment. Like this dude, I mean, we have I don't know if we've talked about this on the show before. We must have. He could have been your very first interview. Back in 2016, 2017, you were trying to get a one-on-one with Chris Eubanks. He had gotten into Cincinnati. He had, I think, been bumped to center court a night match to fill in for Federer, who had withdrawn or something. It was a last minute. He was like pushed onto center court at night. And it went so late into the night that it was the only option for that interview would be like in the tunnel. Like a passing moment, a couple questions.
It was one of those like, if he wins, and depending on what time it is, you can stand in the tunnel and we'll let you ask a question or something. He was an amateur at that time. Remember, he had just finished his third year, Georgia or Georgia Tech? I can't remember. Yeah. It's in Georgia. And he was...
You were like, let this man have his piece. It's not
I was
that
like,
serious.
You know what? It's fine. Sloan has already said no to me 11 times this week, so I'm just going to stop trying. That was the same year.
Right, but we've been following his progress since. We've met Cousin Candy. We're friends with Cousin Candy on Twitter.
Chris decided to forgo his senior year in school, and he did not see immediate success on the ATP Tour. But
for a long time, he was hovering outside the 120s, was close to the 100s, the top 100, but he'd get to like 120, 130, and then, oh boy, some challenger points fell off from this week last year, and it was a constant struggle. He had that big run in Miami this year, now second week at Wimbledon. He won in Mallorca last week, and so now he's going to be a top 40 player.
Yep.
He's going to get direct entry into the US Open, direct entry into the Australian Open. And he has the opportunity now, with a couple more decent results, to build a solid, consistent top 50 career for a few years. the big caveat here is injuries, right? A lot of times people have one big result, two big results, then maybe you have a fall off of form, or you get this debilitating or tragic injury and it's all wasted, you know? So I wish for him health and continued success and consistency, but this is big.
Yeah, the surface is obviously ideal for his game.
He didn't think so until this year.
Right.
He hated it until this year.
Asking Kim Kleisters for advice on how to move on the surface. It was really cool to see their text, actually, and see her suggestions. But he beat the Brit, number 12, Cam Norrie, who made the semifinals here last year, which is massive.
Quite easily.
Yeah, surprisingly so. He'll play Stefanos Tsitsipas in the round of 16. Stefanos, of course, beat Andy Murray over the course of 2 days. His
first round match was a 5-setter too.
Yeah.
So he has a lot of mileage coming in.
Again, someone who's not well suited to grass. In the first few sets of the Murray match, I was like, Stefanos looks really good. Like, I thought he looked great.
No, but he's been playing well. He has been playing well at this tournament.
But again, like, don't teach your kids one-handed backhands.
Oh my god, here we go.
No,
again.
don't. Because Stefanos would be a complete player without that backhand. He probably would have won a major already.
Another big story, Matteo Berrettini was injured. May not have even played this tournament at all. He said he was considering that. And he said, well, you know what? I've missed so many big tournaments the last couple of years. I'm here. I'm just going to give it a go. And look what he did. He took out that guy today in straight sets.
He had lost to Sonego pretty badly in Stuttgart. And that was his only match on grass. Last year, I think he was the Queen's Club champion. He hadn't won a match since Monte Carlo. He's been dealing with these injuries for a long time, last year, as you recall, and this year. And he said he didn't really think he was prepared to play the tournament at all, but decided to try. So he beats Sonego. He beats Alex de Minaur, who we talked about as somebody who's a dark horse, who had tons of success on grass recently.
One of the winningest players on grass by match wins in the last couple of years.
But Berrettini is also in that category. It just didn't seem like he was there physically. And then Zverev today. It all feels like bonus for him. Like, he seems amazed that he's here. He said he's spent too many days crying in bed that he couldn't play, that he's going to gut it out. He doesn't care that he played 5 straight days here.
Again, I'm here to bow to your expertise, to come with my tail between my legs, to once again agree with you that the draw on the women's side is lopsided. as we have a clearer picture of the final 16, the bottom half is way, way tougher than the top half.
Yes.
That said, I think we are also getting to a stage where Iga Świątek is figuring out grass.
Yeah.
And should we not expect that? I feel like for a while...
No, we knew we'd get there.
I don't know.
Isn't she like 21?
Sure, but I don't know that we were that clear-minded about it. And I don't think the discourse surrounding her has been that expectant. And I feel like it's stupid not to. Like, Iga has one of the most professional approaches to tennis. She has a very professional team. These are expectations she has of herself.
Yeah.
She's not Casper Ruud with grass, you know?
Who's sort of resigned to his fate.
Like it's... Yeah. She expects to have the career Grand Slam.
Of course.
Right?
With her level of talent and her precociousness at her age. Like, yeah.
And curiosity and drive. You know, like, I imagine she sees it as a challenge, a puzzle to figure out.
Right.
And I feel like we're seeing the pieces fall into place here.
I mean, she lost to Cornet last year. Serena has lost to Cornet at Wimbledon.
She's lost to Cornet many times.
But specifically on grass. Like, that's not a huge deal, you know?
Right, so Iga's still in the draw. Hasn't looked very bothered so far.
Right, has had a very easy draw, obviously.
One of the stories that seems to happen every slam now is that there is some buffoonish reporting happening in the press room, whereby there are major gaffes. In this case, gaffes that happen where people double down on them and pretend like they didn't happen.
Are you talking about the Paula Badosa incident?
Yes.
That was, well, not shocking because it has happened before.
We've seen it happen many times.
The determined nature of the reporter to just plow through.
Like Paula essentially said, no, I lost. At which point you say, oh, I'm so sorry. That was just a slip of the tongue. Still, how do you feel? Da, 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 da.
Yes, the reporter said, congratulations on your win. Paula says, I lost. He continues to ask his question. She said, I need to tell you that I lost. I did not win. Then the moderator chips in and says she did not win. No apology. He continues to ask the same question again. And with grace, Paula answers the question. Because that would not be me. Like, she is better than me.
And then we have a reporter asking Victoria Azarenka what it's like in Russia re-Wimbledon. How do Russians feel about Wimbledon? And she's like, I'm
from Belarus. That's a different country. And people were, calling for reporters to identify themselves before they ask questions, which I do not have a problem with that. I think that's normal. Or they were saying reporters should be required to watch the matches they're reporting on. That will never happen.
That's ridiculous.
Your favorite reporters, the best reporters, they're not watching the match either. Nobody's watching the match. I mean, if you've been in press at tennis tournaments, reporters catch some on TV. They may go to the match for a set, but nobody's watching the whole thing. And that's just because they have a lot of competing requirements from editors.
Unless you are on a specific beat for a certain country or you're following one player, you're not going to matches. You may, if the press box overlooks center court or if there are press seats on center court, you may move your equipment to go watch it.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how often I was one of two people in the press seats at Cincinnati?
Yeah.
We have all these seats open.
Well, there weren't that many.
Nobody's down. And I'm not saying that that's correct or that's how it should be, but you're not going to get reporters to watch the matches. At least not full ones.
They're busy, right? There's a lot of tennis happening at the same time, and also they're writing stories.
Right. That said, that is a horrendous error, and you should be embarrassed.
Yes.
You should apologize to Paula. She just had to retire against Kostyuk. It sucks. She's not going to be in a good mood. And she handled it really, really well. And
now she has to go sit in Tsitsipas's box for interminable 5-set matches.
With his dad. Have some sympathy.
I could not date a tennis player because once I put my work in, I'm done. I'm not coming out here to go play my best of 5-set match, go do my thing, and then come back out for 4 more hours.
And then
be yeah, babe, good shot.
And then get yelled at because you're not cheering enough.
No, absolutely not. I will see you at home. I'll see you in the hotel room. If you're coming in with a stank attitude, I'll see you tomorrow.
Right.
You can go sleep in the business center.
But for real, people were saying that reporters should lose his credential, and I don't know what the correct answer is. I do think that Wimbledon, their press moderation has been very poor in the past because often they ask a club member to have a little field trip and moderate a certain press conference. We saw it with Venus Williams, that absolute catastrophe a few years ago after her car accident. Yes, I believe reporters should be held to higher standards than that. That's an embarrassment.
I think the easiest fix is, it's not a fix, but the easiest thing to create a safeguard is to have some identification. I'm sure that allows for online attacks and maybe some really nasty, gnarly stuff happening to reporters when they don't deserve it because of the inherent just nasty nature of standum.
Right.
But I think that's the only thing you can really do at this point.
It happens in other sports, reporters identify themselves. Mm-hmm. The other thing, and this is just a personal gripe, this may be very niche, but there are a lot of gatekeepers in the traditional press who are trying to keep out new media, right? But this is not that.
Well, we don't even know who this person is and where they're from.
We don't. But in my experience, when new media has attended press, because it's so rare that they get credentials, they behave appropriately and professionally because they know that credential is it's precarious, right?
Right.
They're not working for the New York Times.
You are right. There are some really nasty people in press who are very unfriendly to new forms of media. And you may have encountered some of them on Twitter. They're very active.
You surely have.
Very active. And if you think that they're nasty on Twitter, they're just like that in person. And yeah. Funny enough, a lot of these old school people have now had to adapt to new media.
Well, of course.
To continue in the sport, to cover the sport, but they still carry that nasty attitude.
A lot of them no longer work for a major newspaper because those jobs literally don't exist anymore. But they expect everybody else to have those jobs.
Right?
Yes. Anyway, that was a personal gripe. I'll stop. But speaking of Marta Kostyuk, she beat Badosa. She had an emotional win over Maria Sakkari in round 1. And let me just say, this is a brutal draw again for Maria Sakkari. This time the 8th seed. She played Muchova in the French Open round 1 and of course lost. And Carolina made the final. But this is also, for Kostyuk, the second straight major where she drew a top 10 player in her first match. At the French, it was Sabalenka. And here it was Sakkari, which she won.
Let's take a look at the draws and where we are right now. So on both the men's and the women, the draws are mostly decided. I'd say like 90% decided, right?
Yeah, almost there. There are 2 matches that need to either start or finish for us to get the final 16 on both sides. Starting at the top, we have Alcaraz versus Berrettini. Carlos had a not easy match against Jarry today. I don't think that you can say Carlos is a lock for the quarterfinals. I think it could be a battle. Berrettini has some obvious weaknesses that Carlos will know about, that being the entire backhand side.
Right, but he has a comfort on grass. He's a former finalist. He has nothing to lose at this point. This is all bonus for him. Carlos looked like he was going to a 5th set today against Jarry and then came back to win that 4th set and close out the match. Francis Tiafoe and Grigor Dimitrov.
All right. Francis is down 2-0 versus Grigor. He was flat as a pancake today.
Grigor has been playing well for a little while now. Like he's had a couple slams in a row now where the early rounds are just kind of ho-hum. None of this unnecessary 5-set bullshit, you know? And he's playing well here again. This interruption can do nothing but help Francis.
Yeah.
I mean, it may still be a steamroll, but he needed a break, clearly, in this match.
Yes. The winner of that will play Holger. I know you all have seen the match, or at least you've seen what happened in the tiebreak against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. Alejandro looked like he was about to win the match. He was up 8-5. He was producing some really exciting stuff in the tiebreak.
He had already had 2 match points before that final set tiebreak.
Yes.
Up 8-5. And at 8-all, he decides to hit an underarm serve, which is swiftly returned for a winner by Holger. That sets him off into a frenzy.
An easy forehand winner, and then wins his very first match point. Like, it was done. I mean, you could sense some of the momentum shifting when Alejandro had 8-5 and these points are getting chipped away, but I had rarely seen something like that in tennis. Just an absolute mental collapse. And I was thinking about it. I was trying to be generous. You make thousands of decisions during a tennis match, conscious and unconscious. One bad decision can change the course of the match. This was just an incredibly shocking decision.
I wonder what it must be like, and spare a thought for diehard fans of Davidovich Fokina, because I would be pulling my hair out. I'd be screaming. I'd be throwing things. I may need a new phone at this point because it's destroyed. Like, that is wild.
The commentators didn't really know what to say. Like, they were shocked as well. And somebody reminded me, remember how he exited Wimbledon last year? I had totally forgotten. He was given a point penalty down match point last year from Carlos Ramos. So I'm a fan of Alejandro. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan because I don't have that capacity, like emotionally, in my life right now.
Right, but you are still looking forward to the U.S. Open where you can sit courtside
Totally.
on an outer court and watch him slip and slide all over that court.
No, he's definitely somebody who I want to see. But if you're a fan of his, you have to take the bad with the good. This sort of extraordinary shit is typical.
Extraordinary. It's certainly extraordinary.
Exactly.
Medvedev plays Lehechka in the round of 16. Here is Daniil on his, I guess,
second
least favorite surface.
Like, you gotta like one of them.
Lehechka, for his part, he took out Tommy Paul in 5 sets after being up 2 sets to love. And he'd been on a bit of a slide lately. So this is a good performance for him. And then to close out that top half, you have Chris Eubanks against Stefanos Tsitsipas.
It could have been Nori Murray, but as usual, I jumped the gun on Andy and said he was a dark horse here. I mean, it's not like he flopped to Stefanos. It was a tough match.
Yes, but he'd come in with the best preparation for a slam since his comeback, I would say. Mm-hmm. He won 2 grass challenger events. He said physically it was the best he'd felt in a very, very long time. He was up 2 sets to 1 before they had to stop play the night before because, lo and behold, here's that curfew coming. They still had 20 minutes before 11 o'clock. And then we get this big conversation between Barbara Schett and Mats Wilander as to what happened. Is it the case of, well, both players agreed that they wanted to stop Stefanos being down 2 sets to 1, and so he wanted the reset? Andy, who fell on the ground, he had 3 set points in that 3rd set. And on the second one, he changed direction and screamed and fell to the ground, looked like he pulled a groin. And then hit a really good serve on the 3rd set point to close out that 3rd set. And presumably, he too wanted the extra time to deal with potentially an injury, right? I don't even know what the exact rule is. The tournament referee came out. Presumably, they could have played for 15 more minutes to start the 4th set. I don't know. I don't know if it was a case of both players decided to stop or the referee made that decision. But they came back the next day and Stefanos needed to win both sets and it needed one. And I just can't help but think, had Andy not had that slip at the end of that 3rd set, and if he was able to finish that match that night, this could have gone his way. But I mean, that's hearsay at this point.
Right.
But it was a lost opportunity because he was playing well, he was feeling well, and yet another second round exit for him.
Right. On the bottom half, we've got number 8 seed Yannick Sinner living up to his seed in the 4th round versus Daniel Galan. He got a little bit lucky with the draw because Taylor Fritz lost to Michael Emer. Galan beat Nishioka, the 24 seed, in the 1st round. I always feel like expectations are too high for Taylor considering his record at slams. On tour, okay.
Right. Is it Pliskova-esque at this point? Earlier in her career?
Right. Or at one point it was Sabalenka-esque or Svitolina.
Well, maybe we need to revisit our mailbag episode where we said that we felt that Fritz was the young guy most poised to win a slam next.
Who said that?
We both did. We both did.
Are you sure?
We both sat here.
Okay.
We were asked a question and we were given 3 people. Multiple people asked that question. We both said that he was one of the ones most likely. And I think that is fairly absurd at this point. Then we have, lo and behold, Denis Shapovalov against Safiullin. He could easily make the quarterfinal here. Dennis.
Yeah, did not see that coming at all. Casper Ruud was dispatched by Liam Brody. Brody made the 3rd round last year as well. Gave Casper a 5th set bagel. Casper's back at the weekend concert. Don't worry. He's with Abel again.
Andrei Rublev plays Bublik. And Urkac takes on Djokovic. I have yet to see anything happen this first week that sets Djokovic off track.
No.
For whatever number he's at now. What, 24?
Yeah. He's won like 7 here, I think. No. Nothing. Folks were digging into the nostalgia a bit, hoping that Stanley could do something against Novak. This is not 2016. it was not going to happen.
It was not the surface for it to happen.
No.
And Stan was under no delusion that this could happen either. He said as much in his press conference ahead of the match. On the women's side, Swiatek takes on Bencic, Azarenka, Svitolina. Pegula, she's into week 2 of Wimbledon.
Mm-hmm.
She takes on Surenko. Vondroshova against Boskova. That top half, the weaker half, as you profess.
Yeah. Vondroshova, listen, she beat the number 12 seed. Kudermetova beat Donna Vekic, the number 20, who I think we expected more than her seed. Donna, with her record on grass, having reached the Berlin final, I thought she would go further.
Hands up if you picked Donna Vekic to make the semifinals of this tournament. Because I'm pretty sure I did.
I think
you may have as well.
Yeah. I mean, but look at the quarter. It was not crazy to put her in the semifinals over Pegula or over Kudermetova. And then Caroline Garcia, who is another grass stalwart, lost to Marie Boskova.
Lesia Surenko versus Anna Bogdan. That match.
Yeah, that was a wild one. There was confirmed the longest tiebreaker in women's Grand Slam history.
2018 in the third set. Surenko having saved multiple match points. My money's still on Swiatek here.
Yeah.
In the bottom half, this is where things get really juicy. You start off with Ons Jabeur against Petra Kvitova. Haddad Maia against Rybakina. Madison Keys plays the winner of Potapova and Andreeva. Alexandrova and Sabalenka round off the bottom half.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay, I'm going to start at the bottom. Alexandrova, grass title winner 2 years in a row, damn near lost to Madison Brengle. Like, what the hell? But she'll play Sabalenka. Madison Keys, as I said, has made her way through the draw without a lot of fanfare. Ons Jabeur played Bianca today. Not a great first set from Ons. Third set was tight until Bianca just played kind of a loose game, and then Ons capitalized. Like, it happened really quickly.
Closing out the match with an ace. Back to Alexandrova, though. This is her first slam round of 16.
Yeah.
She's 28 years old.
With her game, like, you'd think it would have happened already multiple times.
But there's the defending champion.
Rybakina,
beating Katie Bolter 6-1, 6-1 to reach the fourth round.
Yeah, first round was tricky. First round against Rogers, she lost the first set, and she was just not dialed in yet. This match against Katie Bolter, Rybakina looked pretty fearsome. Petra Kvitova has won her 50th match at Wimbledon. You know, this has been a place of success and a lot of disappointments in the past, but now, like, we talked about this side of the draw. You have last year's runner-up versus a two-time champion who's playing well on grass right now. It's really loaded.
You have the defending champion. You have the Australian Open champion. There are a lot of different looks to this bottom half.
Yeah.
Who do you have winning the women's title?
In my bracket challenge, I picked Rybakina to repeat.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's definitely possible. She has a tougher road, but I'm sticking with that.
I'm sticking with Swiatek, who I picked as well.
All right.
It's the only thing that can redeem my racket bracket at this point. Because
this is like one of the most historically bad rankings I've ever had in one of these.
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about tradition, like Fiddler on the Roof. Wimbledon, it does feel like every year we're talking about weird policies and traditions from Wimbledon that don't change because this is what they do. Wimbledon is a place of imperialist nostalgia, period.
It has a trophy with a pineapple on it.
Yes. Where did the pineapple come from? Not the United Kingdom.
It trots out monarchy to the trophy presentation to deliver the trophies to the winners.
Yes. This is a tournament that has a mutually beneficial relationship with the British monarchy. Now they have a princess who likes tennis and who also needs her image to be... what's the word?
Bolstered.
But that's
bolstered.
That's exactly the word I was going for. Bolstered.
Oh, you were going for it, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't find it because it's not rehabilitate. Like, she doesn't need that. But
aren't you glad you have me here?
Indeed. But this is a strange place, right? It's a place where Roger Federer makes this triumphant return, and all they let him do is like stand and wave and then sit with Kate Middleton. What was there a ceremony or anything?
Well,
he just sat there with the princess.
They had this 6-minute video with Kate Middleton and Roger Federer
right
ahead of the tournament where they go and investigate and learn about what it's like to be a ball boy or ball girl at Wimbledon.
I didn't know that Kate was allowed to do that.
The extensive training process that they go through.
And also, I'm American. I don't need to call her by her title. Like, that is not a requirement of me.
Listen, I'm going to say something here. I'm going to read a statement, a line or two, and it will be the perfect segue to what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
Okay, ready? For the first time in 146 years, Wimbledon changed its women's dress code. Now the women can wear non-white underwear. Ma'am.
Was that was a statement?
This is 2023.
Why are we making statements about underwear?
We are coming out of a years-long pandemic. Our lives are drastically different. If it weren't before the pandemic, it's different now. Why do I care what baggy the gal them wearing?
Well, they did for over a century.
It is absolutely crazy, absurd that these people are policing the panties.
Yes.
That's the title of the episode.
No.
Policing the panties. Wimbledon mid-rep episode.
But there are people who will come on social media and defend that right to the death.
So, there is that. A tournament that polices panties. Is it any surprise that players, viewers, officials, everybody gets wrapped up and oppressed by the stodginess of this tournament in so many varied ways?
Sure, but there is a reason it persists, right? The tournament is beautiful to look at. There's something powerful about being so different from the other slams, and again, I'll say this is imperialist nostalgia. This is nostalgia for a time that we never knew, that I never knew, but that when the British Empire was the British Empire. So much of it is stuff that was invented in the early 20th century, right? But like I said, a lot of players like it. They like the tradition. It makes it feel extra important, even though we know logically that grass is a novelty surface at this point. I love grass. Mm-hmm. But again, it's not a serious surface in tennis. Wimbledon still has the cachet of being like the championships of tennis when it's played on a surface that they play on for 3 weeks a year.
And it's in their best interest to keep up this bullshit, to keep them so different from other tournaments, to try and hang their hat on their uniqueness.
Right.
Because in a way, it's a dying art form, right?
Of course, yeah.
It's a way to maintain their relevance.
And part of the way that they do this is that the site is so small and center court is small compared to the other Grand Slam center courts. Scarcity. Tickets are expensive, tickets are hard to get, and part of the lore of Wimbledon is how do people even get there? One of the ways is the queue, the famous queue.
To camp out like peasants overnight, get in line, be handed an inmate number for the privilege
of attending the rich people's tournament,
of entering the gates of SW19 to maybe catch a match. You may catch a match. You may camp overnight and get to your seat at 3 p.m.
Yes. As you may have been reminded during this first week, Wimbledon is a private club. It's small, and it's not a Ticketmaster vibe. That's not what they do.
Apparently some people have gotten tickets on Ticketmaster before.
Okay.
Like you can, I guess.
This is how it...
A limited number.
Sure. This is how it officially works. Ways to get tickets are, there is a public ballot that has existed since 1924. Now you can submit your name online. It closes December 30th of the prior year, and you may get tickets through the ballot. A lot of people do. Debenture is the other thing. If you want debenture tickets, first of all, be rich.
It sounds like dentures and for old people.
Essentially, it is very expensive tickets. It's the best the best seating, 2,500 seats on center court that you can buy through debenture. They're issued every 5 years. And it is an asset that you can buy or sell. It can be purchased through a stockbroker. It can also be traded through a stockbroker. So it's not a regular ticket, right? It is actually an asset that people trade.
I'm confused. What exactly is the definition of a debenture?
So a debenture is actually, in financial terms, a long-term security that is issued by a company and secured against its assets. At Wimbledon, it's essentially an asset that you can buy, and they use these very expensive debenture tickets to make updates and improvements to the site. So the debenture folks are really what's paying the bills. People who belong to the club or can afford to buy a debenture ticket, they get the best seats, they dress up, this is how people like Bradley Cooper, Jamila Jamil get in. Like, you can't just buy a ticket for the third row of center court. Somebody with a debenture ticket probably has to loan it to you.
So in other words, it's rich people shit.
Yeah. So for opening day, the debenture tickets were selling for £2,400. That's just for one session. So this is what pay the bills, what helps them improve their long-term assets, like capital improvement. Then you can also get Wimbledon tickets through a hospitality package. Their exclusive partner is this company called Keith Prowse. Those start at £775 minimum. Those sold out in April. And then the last one for like regular folks, if you don't get one through the ballot, you can line up in the queue each day. And they set aside 500 tickets for each show court, so center 1 and 2. And if you're one of the first 1,500 people in line, you may get a ticket for one of those show courts for much, much less than it would normally be.
Right, so I don't know if you're like me and on Twitter and don't really understand how the queue works, you've never done it, and you see people say, I joined the queue, I'm number 1275, and you're wondering, what does that mean? My understanding now is that means that depending on the schedule of play that day, maybe you're wanting to watch your fave on center court, but your fave isn't like the overwhelming fave of most of the other people in the queue. So maybe the first 500 people all want court 1 tickets.
Oh, I see.
And so you're kind of okay to maybe get your center court ticket. It's all dependent on what people want to do ahead of you in the queue, right? Mm-hmm. And then outside of those 1,500 reserved seats or tickets, there are ground passes that you can wait in queue for.
Right.
I've also read that tickets are also resold. People watch maybe 1 or 2 matches on center court and then they leave. Those queue tickets, you return them, is what I understand.
Yeah, because they're only resold by the tournament. Like, you can't just give
correct.
your ticket to someone because it's attached to your ID, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And then those tickets are resold and the profits go to charity.
Okay.
So some folks join the queue in the afternoon and get on site at 6 p.m. or something and then watch 2 or 3 hours of tennis for £15, which is a pretty good deal if you're not having to wait too long for it. So there is some benefit to it. I just cannot foresee myself at my big age camping out, and that is behavior beyond my bandwidth.
And my question is always, is it accessible? Is it possible for the elderly, for the disabled to wait in the queue the same way that able-bodied people do?
I'm told that there is a separate queue to assuage those concerns.
All right. I
but
certainly
still,
wouldn't be doing it.
But still, you are not technically a person with a disability, but you could not do it.
No, I could not.
I would not do it.
Right.
And why am I doing it? It's this is 2023. I really hoped that with the pandemic and them having to pause this in 2021, I hope stopped in 2021, that this would have been the end of it. But now the queue is back in full effect, and every year it becomes more and more ludicrous to me that this happens.
Yeah.
Granted, I hear all the people who say that this is a fun experience.
And
you
people
enjoy
said
the camaraderie.
You've met friends, I believe you, that's amazing for you, that will not ever be me.
Sell the fucking tickets.
It just won't be.
Sell the tickets outright. it just makes it so precious. Another element about this tournament being so precious that
Yes.
taken together with everything, you're just doing too much. You're doing too much all the time. All the time.
And it also feels like the people who can't afford to buy debenture tickets or can't get tickets from the ballot, like those people have to labor and perform in a certain way that also adds to the lore of the tournament. Like,
Right.
I am poor. I'm in the queue. And maybe I'll make some friends here.
It is such a joy and highlight of my life. I finally got into this tournament. Please let me in, sir.
Right.
Please. I will shine your shoes.
A lot of conversation about the curfew this year and every year. And to be honest, I'm totally over it. Like I'm not complaining about the curfew. I'm complaining about the scheduling. If you cannot you cannot feasibly finish your matches on center court if they start at 1:30. Why are you starting at 1:30?
We do not believe that tennis players should be playing past midnight.
Exactly. So I actually, probably years ago, I would have said the curfew is so stupid. Like, we love night tennis. Sure. But do we love night tennis when people are out here playing till 2 a.m.? They don't leave the site till 5 a.m. Volunteers, everybody, like the trains are not running anymore. I get it. I don't have a problem with the curfew.
This topic is a perfect illustration of how my viewing habits and my viewing of tennis has changed over the years. Mm-hmm. I was at work this week and my manager comes up to me and says, quite excitedly, "Oh, you must be really enjoying the Wimbledon coverage this week." I mean, they know I have a tennis podcast or whatever. Obviously, he has to approve my time off to go and do tennis stuff, And I had to take a pause because I wasn't. And I'm supposed to, right? But increasingly, partly because I'm doing the show and the way we cover tennis, it's not a fan experience anymore. We don't have that same lens on tennis anymore. And
also, a lot of our faves have retired.
I mean, there's that, but also we're watching the first week of Wimbledon and all we can see is the inherent fuckery all over the place at this tournament.
Yeah.
We are not watching it like him, who's like, "Oh, Dennis is doing really well.
Yeah.
Oh, Felix didn't play well. Oh, Bianca's still in the tournament. Oh." Like those little water cooler conversations that people will have about tennis as diehard or casual fans when a tournament is going on. We can't do that anymore. That's just not us.
Okay.
Necessarily. And so then I got into like a 5-minute conversation explaining why this tournament is shit and why it's a problem. And
they were like, "This is not."
They're like, "Are you serious?" No, but he was like, "Are you serious? Like this is how a tournament in 2023 sells tickets?"
Oh.
Do other tournaments do that? I'm like, "No, sweetie, no."
No, you can buy them like Beyonce tickets.
Right.
The curfew thing though, if I were at home, like I'm at home watching the US Open in my time zone, love night matches because I'm gonna be up late anyway, right? Love night matches.
You love night matches till midnight because you have to go to bed for work.
Can I talk?
Yes.
However, if I were in person, I would be like, "You know what? I'm ready to go."
No, it's not fun in person for me, at least when I was there.
Like,
it's like, let's go.
When does the train stop? I'd probably rather be somewhere else at 1 a.m.
I'd like to go stop by a bar, somewhere cool, have a drink, meet up with some folks.
And the curfew at Wimbledon was a consequence of the roof going in. When they had to seek approval from the local council to put the roof in at all. This all sounds very precious, right? London is one of the most prominent cities in the entire world, and
it's one of the biggest cities in Europe.
They still have to go through their local councils. Wimbledon Village has to approve all this stuff, and they said, "Sure, you can put in the roof, but there's going to be a curfew because this is not a night tournament."
Do you think it was a whole bunch of public housing residents in Wimbledon Village who had to vote on this?
I don't think so.
And so this led to one of the most hilarious things we saw on Twitter this past week.
Oh my god.
So Bad Toss on Twitter was just going scorched earth
on the generational wealth
in Wimbledon Village. Yeah. Like, don't come at me about how people need to be maintaining peace and noise at this time. Like, these people, they're not even here at this time. They've rented out their places. Roger Federer is probably staying there. Like, give me a break. And then somebody responded
with a lot of people have inherited these homes, but they're like cash poor, so they have to work regular jobs.
They've inherited these homes,
like $5 million or pound homes,
but they make semi-normal salaries.
Like, babe, this is not doing what you think it's doing.
I sat there and my mouth was just wide open. It was perfect.
And I get it. Like, if you grew up in a place like New York or other places in Europe that are later, like Northern Europe and the British Isles, shit closes early. And it's not my vibe. But this is London. Like, if that's how they want to do it, that's how they want to do it. And if people get to go home at a reasonable hour, fine. Just start play at 11 a.m. Like, yes. That's all I'm saying.
Why are we starting play on center court at 1:30 p.m.?
Right.
Subsequent days after we've had rain delays over and over and over again. You're so backlogged. We still haven't gotten through all of the fourth round matches. This is 6 days into the tournament. And you still haven't completed your schedule because of the rain. And mostly because you didn't start an hour and a half earlier every day. Period.
The other thing with the scheduling is, and a few players have called it out, like Alize Cornet called out the treatment of unseeded players in a sort of a serpentine way, which I'll mention. You got first round matches finishing on Thursday, but you've made sure that your top seeds have had the most comfortable rides possible.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what top seeds get, right? But on Wednesday, Swiatek and Djokovic finished their second rounds easily, in comfort. But there are first rounds that didn't even start until Thursday. That sucks.
That is, wait for it, an inequity in tennis.
Indeed.
I wonder if the PTPA is going to take that up.
Well, and Alize Cornet was talking about how they treat unseeded players like really dirty here. And at the French Open, they treat the French players like kings and queens. And I'm like, Alize, again, like this, it's not doing what you think it's doing. That's another inequity at the front. You know, it just benefited you that time.
We're going to finish up with a few etc. observations from the first week.
First, Anett Kontaveit has retired from tennis, played her last match in both singles and mixed doubles. She beat Stefani before going out to Boskova in the second round. Just feel really bad for. I honestly feel terrible for her. She said she cannot play without pain in her back. And there was really no decision to be made. It was made for her.
And with all the rain delays, there were all these discussions on Twitter about her court assignments. She eventually got pushed to an outer court where there was just 2 benches for people to watch. And then, of course, no surprise, a lot of Serena Army fans, who are known to be some of the most uncharitable toward players who aren't Serena Williams, were like, well, what did you expect? What has she won? Right. What has she won? What has she done?
But the point, like, she's a former number 2 player in the world. Deserved better than that, in my opinion. Jeremy Chardy also retired at Wimbledon, losing to Carlos Alcaraz in the first round.
After Donna Vekic beat Sloane Stephens, Sloane was up big, a set, and I think maybe even 5-2 in that match. And Donna came back to win. At the end of that match, her entire box was rejoicing. Donna was in tears, and people were mocking her. And I was just sitting there thinking, what is wrong with you people? A second round match and she's carrying on like that. What has she won? You're really telling on yourself that you have
really
no idea about what it's like for 98% of tennis professionals on a week-to-week basis. This is a former tennis prodigy who's suffered through many things in her career, not least of which I presume the embarrassment of that whole Kyrgios Kokkinakis Wawrinka trifecta of fuckery that
Right.
y'all sat there and enjoyed and kikied and cacaed through.
When men humiliated her on an
Right.
international stage and made her the butt of the joke.
So many injuries that have derailed her career, and this was a big achievement for her. And if that's how she felt, that's how she felt. Period. Point blank. End of story.
Also, people just need to get comfortable with crying, because that's what it is. You're making fun of someone because it makes you uncomfortable, right?
Like, what are the legitimate reasons that somebody should cry?
Right. Because we know everybody's sitting here on TikTok watching dog videos crying, and there's no shame in that. If I'm crying over a dog video, I'm going to cry if I win a big match at Wimbledon. Total change of tone here, but Jensen Brooksby, that's his name, right?
Jensen Brooksby Swanson.
Okay.
That's the TBS name.
He has accepted a provisional suspension by the ITIA for missing 3 doping tests within 12 months. He says, quote, "It's not an admission of guilt. He has never taken a banned substance, and he has not been accused of taking a banned substance. This is just a citation for missing 3 tests in a year. It could come with a long suspension. I believe it's a 1-year suspension if found culpable. He secured Howard Jacobs as his attorney, who is also representing Simona Halep. I remember throughout this Halep saga, we were asking, like, who was her lawyer? Like, who was advising her to speak like this? Her lawyer is Howard Jacobs. We obviously don't know what he has or has not advised her, but he has defended or represented other players accused of doping.
He's had surgeries on both wrists, as far as we can tell, and that's why he was out of action. And then now this story comes.
He split with a coach that he's known for decades. Like, not a great year for him.
Decades? How old do you think he is?
Well, he said since how old is he? He said since he was 7.
So like maximum 1.5 decades.
Decade and a half.
Maximum 1.5 decades.
1.5 decades, still plural. So the official statement mentions one of the alleged missed tests, which he claims happened in the Netherlands. He was where he said he would be in his hotel, and he was cited for missing that test. Several players have come out on Twitter to defend him and say, like, how difficult the location thing is with anti-doping, because obviously you need the element of surprise in anti-doping. It is a foundation of anti-doping in all sports. Players need to list their whereabouts. The tests themselves have to be a surprise. They just show up. But in tennis, of course, you're traveling constantly. Plans change on a dime. Matches take too long. Lots of things can happen. You're expected to update the doping authorities like every time something happens, and that's your team's responsibility. But I can understand how things get missed.
Yeah, also, like, we don't just default to trust in Babylon.
Right,
You know?
right. You may remember back in 2018, Alize Cornet was charged with the same offense for missing 3 tests within a year. This was a whole saga, right? She said the buzzer at her apartment was broken, her dad was involved, and she was eventually totally cleared of these charges because they determined that the doping control officer didn't take reasonable steps to locate her.
Tsitsidosa.
You wrote this. I am blissfully unaware of what's going on here. Sex streams. What's going on?
These two are inescapable.
Yeah.
For one, they were entered into mixed doubles, so that was a thing at the start of the tournament. They've since withdrawn. I mean, I don't know for sure, but presumably because of Paula's injury, right?
Pegula has withdrawn too. Did you hear that?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Well, she's still in women's doubles and singles, but she cited a back injury.
Paula has been in Stefanos's box. There were all these posts going around where Paula was side-eyeing Apostolos. Did you see that one?
Oh, no. I mean, how could you not?
And people were making all these speculations. It looks like Apostolos was going to do something. He was seated in the first row of the box, and she was over his right shoulder in the second row. And he was about to do something, and it looked like he realized that Paula was there, remembered that Paula was there, and then stopped. And then she was kind of like, what's going on here? And her eyes were like side-eyeing him.
Okay. I think also like that's just what she looks like.
Right, but there's also my point is there's a lot of content from them,
Yes.
and there's a lot of public fascination with them. Clearly at this point, and they're playing into it because Stefanos is giving comments about their origin story, and when pressed, he's saying, "Oh, ask her about it." And so in press, she's asked. Stefanos said that journalists should ask how it started with him. He said, "You have a better story." Paula says, "He already explained it, all the Rome story." "Yeah, I think you mean about that I had a dream?" "Yeah, well, I was injured in Australia. I watched his match, the final, against Novak. Of course, I had jet lag because I was in Spain. I decided to watch that match." You're hearing this for the first time?
Yeah.
"Surprising, because I never dream about tennis players. But I dreamt about him that night, that we were both winning Australian Open. Then, it was like we were having a very romantic moment. But I'm not going to explain. I'm just going to leave it there."
Okay.
So she fucked him into fruition.
You really just said that?
In her dreams.
In a dream.
In her dreams.
This happened when?
Are you going to edit that out? I'll take the second half of the episode.
Okay. But this happened in Australia?
That's when the dream happened.
When she was still with that dead side model?
Listen.
I mean, you're allowed to have dreams about other people. I'm not policing someone's dreams.
Absolutely.
Certainly not.
If you were to police my
But
dreams, it
for
would
me,
be over.
That's like a Nightmare on Elm Street situation. I hope that one of them is making money off this. Because it's not going to last. So, like, capitalize on the relationship, sell some merch or something.
I wish them joy and happiness. But above all this, I'm wishing them
Grand Slam titles?
love may be more attainable.
Okay. Kevin Anderson announced that he's coming back. That was the most random thing I heard all week.
Dude said, "I'm at home with the kids. I've had enough."
Enough. Tom Brady. We've heard this before. He's coming back at Newport, which is really soon, which is the only ATP tournament on grass in the United States. He's won it before. So Kevin Anderson, okay. The Western and Southern Open, which is, as of this recording, still located in Mason, Ohio. By next Monday, Navarro could have moved it to, like, Tallahassee, Florida. I have no idea.
Timbuktu, who knows?
But Cincinnati has offered a wild card to Caroline Wozniacki. This will be, I don't know if this will be the first tournament in her comeback, but it is the...
No, it'll be the second, because she's going to play...
Is she going to play Canada?
She's going to play Montreal first.
Have they confirmed that they're giving a...
She said that in her Vogue piece.
All right. Well, she's coming to Cincinnati. I had this memory, right? And I looked it up. Kim Clijsters played Cincinnati as her first tournament in her first comeback back in 2009 when she won the U.S. Open. Cincinnati used to be before Canada.
That's when I won the Rogers Cup hat. Because we were on the shuttle to the site and the volunteer played a little trivia game and they said how many moms are in this tournament. And it was because Kim was in the field. And I guess the other one. I forget who it was at this one.
I think it was like... Wait, at that point, like Mandy Manella? Or was that... No, Sybil Bammer.
Yes, it was Sybil Bammer. Yes.
You said an S sound and I remember.
Yes.
Anyway, what else? So the last thing, Sorana Cirstea has, she has done weird conservative things on Twitter before. She said she loves Elon. She loves Governor Abbott from
that
Texas.
time on Twitter when she was tweeting up a storm about Greg Abbott. She obviously has some very right-wing views, which she's expressed before. This week, she shared something on Instagram from someone called Mimi Homemaker 94 that said, "Make men masculine again. Make women feminine again. Make children innocent again." She has used the MAGA formation before when she said, "Make Twitter great again," when Elon bought Twitter. This is squarely queerphobic.
It's homophobic, it's transphobic. Like, anyone kind of dancing around that, you're kidding yourselves. This is American far-right Republican language.
This is somebody who is
verbatim.
unfit to be a parent, in my view.
Make children innocent again? What does that mean?
Totally unfit.
It's like we're in the 1970s again, that gay people are assumed to be predators of children. I can assure you, I don't give a fuck about your kids.
I want to be as far away from your children as humanly possible.
Literally.
Like the straight friends that we have who have bread, they're the ones that we try. We actually try
Yes.
and fail repeatedly.
No, but that's it. That's it.
To stay somewhat present in their lives. Like,
But I don't need to. We don't need to explain that queer people don't want to mess with your children. They really don't. This is sick. It's disgusting. I'm glad she shared it because I'm glad that we know who she is.
Once and for all.
Yes.
Is it just that she's a deeply unthinking person? Perhaps. Is
No,
it that
she's a nasty
I'm just
person.
saying. The most charitable reading of this
Why
is that
be charitable?
I'm just saying that the most charitable reading is that she's just an unthinking person, and the most logical explanation, given the track record now, is that she is
A bigot.
period.
Yeah, multiple things can be true, as
Yes.
you say.
Yes.
I always think about that Fed Cup tie in Romania a few years ago.
Kanta.
When Nastase was saying nasty, racist, misogynistic things where they created such an inhospitable atmosphere for the other team. And Cirstea was there crying about we are a small country, stay out of our business. Well, stay out of American business,
right?
Because you are literally using United States far-right talking points. Verbatim. And whichever trolls you set off this week, in our mentions and DMs, by the way, all Romanian names.
There was a DM?
Oh, girl. I reported that one before
We got a DM?
Yes.
I didn't see, you didn't tell me.
All Romanian last names. I don't even know if they're real people or like bots, but it's literally American Republican talking points, word for word. Like there's clearly a pipeline on here.
Yeah, so anybody who beats Sirona Cirstea going forward, we'll send you merch.
Wait, who did it this week?
Haddad Maya
Haddad
Maya did the business today.
Beatrice, I don't even care about the doping. Dope all you want. You're in the Hall of Fame now,
Dope
girl.
all you want?
You're in the Hall of Fame. You sent that homophobe packing. She wants to be feminine again, let her be feminine again. Whatever she means by that.
I mean, and you think about what that means in the context of tennis and how fraught that has been for so many of the WTA players historically.
Does that mean, like, don't be a dyke? Or does
Make
that mean...
women feminine again. Like, I could have won many... She probably thinks she could have won many more tournaments had it not been for all the super masculine, lesbian, Amazon, black, like all the
Probably.
racist talking points, right?
Probably. I wonder if Margaret Court has openings at her church.
Yeah, it's so rare that somebody who you are so suspicious of for so long gives you just exactly what you need to just close the book. And so we shall close the book on Cirstea and this episode.
As always, thanks for listening. Linktree.com/thebodyserve has everything you need. Merch, episodes.
Thanks for all the downloads for the Wimbledon preview episode. Like, that's maybe our best-selling
I was very
Slam
surprised.
preview episode. Crazy. But don't be just sticking around here for the Slam episodes. Like, we've got a lot of stuff going on year-round, you know? It's so disheartening when we think we release a banger and the numbers are so flop.
No, really, like we don't load up the quality just around the slams.
No.
Sometimes it's the
We
exact
often
opposite.
think it's some of our worst stuff. And then often, even if it's not a Slam episode, we look at numbers of episodes that are doing well. I'm like, how? And people are like, oh, this episode was so good. I'm like
what?
This episode was such a trial and a tribulation to get through.
What was the magic? I don't know. But thank you anyway. Like, every download counts.
Spread the word. Spread the word. Let them know about the Kings of the North. He the North.
All our other kings have left. Van Vliet's gone.
He, they, them, the North.
Kyle Lowry's gone. Bianca Andreescu is out of the tournament. Like,
Felix needs a new coach.
we're representing up here. It's lonely up here.
My name is Jonathan. You can find me on Twitter at tennis_John.
I'm James at ElliotJMR.
2 L's, 2 T's. You plugged Linktree already, so all that's left to say is...
Till next time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.